strain a muscle. Even if you didn't step out wrong or if you didn't reach, you're in the right place at the right time, but you just overexerted. You can pull a muscle that way. So, I believe in nutrition first. Second thing would be like stretching. We're very keen. We stretch about an hour a day. So when I say an hour a day, I mean an hour a day cumulative. So cumulative meaning that you're compounding. So if you go to school practice, 10 minutes of stretching in school, 10 minutes in football, 10 minutes in track, that's 30 minutes. Go home, you have 30 minutes that you have to account for. After I take a shower, I do 10 minutes. Before I go to bed, I do 10 minutes. Whatever you need to do. So we try to incorporate the lifestyle. This lifestyle is actually what it is to be a pro athlete. I was a former athlete that was a professional athlete, as well as other athletes that I've worked with, many, many, many. We live the same lifestyle. When I became a pro athlete and I met other pro athletes, it wasn't like we lived a different lifestyle and we were all hanging around each other because we knew that we couldn't eat this, we couldn't drink this, we couldn't do this. We had to live like this, go home and do this because we had to compete, So, you live a different lifestyle when you're becoming an athlete. And if you don't fully embrace that, I feel like that's going to be a strong limitation in the growth of most professional or elite athletes. Because usually I only work with elite or professional athletes.
Yeah, I've noticed that because I noticed you go from high school to professional. So, and speaking of professional athletes, do you plan on training any athletes for the Olympics this year?
Yeah, I have a few athletes that are going to work with me prior to the Olympics. I'm quite where I'm at now, right now in my career. I'm kind of like in limbo. They're looking for me to start to work with pro athletes more, and I'm looking forward to it. I've been working with pro athletes in the past. It's just that me personally, I find a lot of great joy in seeing athletes go into college and then getting the opportunity to, receive their scholarship and then to pass that information along to the next generation. That's a big thing for me. And so I kind of want to stay in that realm, but I don't mind. I mean, if I'm wherever God leads me, that's where I'm at. I'm following where God tells me to go.
Oh, that's a great answer right there. And speaking of that, I've noticed that, for example, like these professional athletes, like you've trained, like you're training Kyle Fulks currently, I'm assuming. And you also trained. Did you ever train Elijah Hall as well? Because I know he broke the collegiate record in the indoor 200.
Yeah,
a couple years back.
I worked with Elijah for a little bit. He was transferring schools. He was getting ready to go from one JUCO to the next. I spent about a month and a half with him, and I worked with teaching him his drive phase. He's a great kid. Also, whenever he went to college, he sent me some videos, and I worked on his technique via online like I do with a lot of athletes. But no, that dude has such great talent. I mean, a lot of coaches and a lot of teams have put a lot of, poured into him. But this kid is special. That kid is special. I talk with Elijah every once in a while here and there, and I really look forward to seeing what he can do this year. He has a great year coming up.
Yeah, he really does. And then speaking of training athletes, has there ever been any NFL players that you've trained for getting ready for the 40-yard dash or anything like that, or any college athletes whenever it comes to getting ready for the 40? Because I know that's like sprint mechanics, and it's all about being explosive and coming out from your stance.
Yeah, every year I work with at least about 16 to 17 athletes every year, combine-wise. And last year I worked with about 10, I say. And this year coming up, we're working about 4 or 5. The reason why I've kind of dwindled down a little bit is just because I've been really more focused on my track athletes this year. And that's pretty much it. The growth of the track, exposure, I wanted to make sure that the athletes got the right attention. So I made sure that I set my schedule to where, the track people got priority. So this year is a little bit less in the combine, but we have Shaywo. He's playing for TCU. He's a running back. He ran a 4.4 last year, I believe, at the official combine and in Indianapolis. He should be able to do something similar or better this year. He's a 6'5" senior, runs 4.4 and running back, TCU. Really good back. He's more of possibly a tight end type athlete.
Yeah, especially with all that height he has on him. I've definitely heard him because he also was trained by Rashad Whitfield, who's also in the Houston area. He calls himself Footwork King.
And Footwork King is awesome as well. Yeah, Footwork King does a lot of good work out here.
Yeah, because that's what I've noticed. I pretty much call you the Footwork King of track because you're Fast University and then you train all these top tier track athletes while he's training a bunch of football athletes. So both you guys are in the Houston area, so that just makes it even more phenomenal just seeing both sports and having top tier trainers like you and him. So have you guys ever worked together or spoke to each other before?
Oh yeah, I know his family, and whenever you're dealing in this industry, you deal with a lot of people, the same people. So he's a very good coach for what he does. So we've seen a lot of the same athletes together. The big thing I think what's happening now, and I love that, is that we're collaborating more, and it allows athletes a straighter path to success. Because what happens is whenever a lot of these athletes are coming out of college, they really don't have the financial backing or sometimes the support to get them to the level to where they can maximize their potential. So for us, it's like, if your cousin or your brother want to make it and they can make it and they put in all this time, sometimes they don't make it because at the end, nobody's there to kind of guide them. So I think that having good elite coaches that are working together often kind of like what do you call that? Seals kind of patches and holes. You know what I mean? Kind of fills in spots. So I like the fact that we're collaborating more. So I hope that in the future I would work with him and other coaches as well.
Man, that's a sight to see right there because I've been following you guys for a long time, and it's just seeing the fact that you guys plan on collaborating is just like a dream come true for both of you guys. I mean, you guys could definitely help each other out because, I mean, obviously, if you want to be a decent football player, especially if you play receiver, DB, running back, sometimes tight ends or quarterbacks, you definitely, I mean, track definitely helps your football because when most athletes are in high school, especially if they're a skilled player, most high school football coaches encourage their athletes to run track and to compete, especially run those sprints, like you said, the 4, the 2,
Yeah,
the 1, and sometimes
absolutely.
hurdles too.
Absolutely.
Because a great example is Tony Brown. Like he plays for the Packers right now, and he was a
hmm
top tier 110 hurdler, and he was also really good in the 1 and 2 when he was in high school. And he was a football guy, running track, and he ran.
Well, look at Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he was a track athlete. Also, you could look at Arian Foster. You can look at Adrian Peterson. You could look at Jamal Charles. You can look at Marquise Goodwin. You could look at, you can just look at a ton. AB, Antonio Brown. All these athletes actually train track and field and do 300s and work in the energy system. Because what track and field offers is this, and this is the thing I want to share with everybody whoever will listen to what I'm saying, is that track and field offers the opportunity where if you have like a four quarter situation and you have an athlete who's fast or athletic, that allows that athlete to be able to play with their athleticism at that point. Your kid is not athletic if they don't have the energy system to be able to be athletic. Like a 5-star kid who has no juice at the end is a 2-star kid.
Mm, wow, yeah. Because another thing is that you mentioned all these athletes too, and then when you look at like Tyreek Hill's another guy because he's considering running in the Olympics this year, and
Man, that dude just sending jokes out there. Come on, man.
yeah,
He's that's a joke.
yeah, because that's what I was trying to say. Because like I don't think people realize track is a completely different ball game than football. I mean, football you can't even compare football speed and track speed. Track speed is
Man, he
totally, yeah, you
wouldn't
can't
even
even do it.
want to jump into college track right now. You know what I'm saying? Like he wouldn't make it.
No, he's not in shape for that. Like that's why I wanted to ask you like what were your thoughts about that, and then because since you're an
Nah, he
expert,
wouldn't make it. He wouldn't make it in college track right now. I mean, I'll give you an example. Like we have a kid. His name is he plays at Purdue now. He left high school early. Man, he was one of the fastest kids last year. I met him last year. Marcellus Moore. So Marcellus Moore is one of the top fastest football athletes coming out of college and coming out of high school right now. He ran 10.3 last year as a junior. He's a 20-point type kid. He's a really good kid. Short, small, compact, scat back, slot receiver type dude. So this guy here, he went to college. Now he's running the same times he ran in high school. He ran like 679. He's running in college, but that's college, bro. You know what I mean? College guys are running like 660, 650. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a whole different ballgame. It's track. You know what I mean? Track people run. You know, so it's like a different situation. So like football people often make the false assumption because of their what do you call that assessment.
mm-hmm,
It's based off of acceleration and in like 40 yard, right?
exactly.
So our assessment is a lot longer. So it's like 60, 100. So when it's that long, you have to make that assessment from that. Even in a 60 where it should equal out between me and you, where it be a track person and a football person, it should equal out. And that's the equalizing factor is 60 meters, right? But even there, this guy is the fastest kid coming out of high school, period. One of them. And like number 2 or 3. And he's only able to put out 670, where the fastest college track guy is putting out 650. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a big difference between 650 and 670. And
It
then,
is huge. It's
yeah,
huge. It's dominating. It's like you won't be able to beat me ever. Like I can have an off day and mess up and I can still beat you type stuff. You know what I mean?
exactly. That's a great explanation, man. That's why I was glad that I was able to get you on here because I wanted to hear your thoughts and opinions about, since you're the expert when it comes to tracking and sprinting, between the difference between times. Because people don't notice, like, because the 60 is different than the 100, obviously. And then when you look at the 60 in indoor, like, if you run like a sub 6.6, that is booking it. That is really booking it.
Yeah.
That is really exploding out of the
That's
blocks.
moving, bro. That's
Yeah.
moving. Like Ryan is the fastest kid, number 4 in the country last year, and Marcellus was like number 5, and Ryan's only running 675. And like that's not 6'6", like you just said.
Yeah, that's like a separation. I feel like that's a separation. That's anything like sub
You're
6.6.
right. You're right. You're absolutely right. You ran track, so you definitely understand. 6'6" is the separation point, and there is a point in track where you become elite. And when you hit 6'6", you're actually elite. Like you're grown. You're really grown. You're in a field where only a few men walk into.
Exactly. Speaking of few men walking into that, I mean, I know you saw the USA Championships, indoor championships not this past weekend, but the weekend prior to that, and I saw that when Christian Coleman was in the prelims, he ran a 6.48, and this dude was slowing up at the end. Like the last 10 to 15 minutes, he's slowing up. Still ran a 6.48. I was thinking this guy is on a different level, and he ended up running a 6.37 in the finals. And just seeing that, like, it doesn't make any sense. That's just ridiculous, man. That's ridiculous speed. Seeing somebody running running a sub 6.5 and then jogging at the end. I've never seen anything like that.
The thing about it is that when you run into athletes that have that aspect of running, then they have that aspect. So I do track in pieces, and most coaches that are pros are in the game of melding pieces. So they don't like to be taught or talk about things in pieces anymore. So I know if there's a pro coach listening to me now, they're going to be like, I hate the fact that this dude's being basic. But let's be basic. There's a certain portion of your race that's momentum building, a certain portion of your race that's acceleration building. So, like, he's mastered the two of those factors, momentum and acceleration. So he knows how to mend those two pieces together. The problem that he has is that you give and take to give. You know what I mean? So whenever you run, it's like to get more acceleration, you have to give away certain aspects of positioning in your body to where you can have top-end mechanics. So his top-end mechanics is limited because of how much acceleration he has. So he has to find the fine balance between him and his coach of what is, how can he position himself correctly, also correct finite differentials like how do I land properly, how do I keep my toes up, how do I land on my instep, things like that makes him more stable to apply more force. So these are very, very small incremental things because when you're talking about fast athletes, you're talking about smaller differences. You're not talking about major ones anymore because they're now playing with the world record, and he's a world record holder. So that's what we're talking about now. So that's like a different conversation. It's more of an in-depth conversation. But for him, he's a fast accelerator. I'm not a big promoter of his style of running because that takes talent. I'm a big promoter of a style that most people can adapt to.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. And then because going off of that, because when you look at the world record holder in the 100, which is Usain Bolt, and people were trying to compare Christian Coleman to that, but like if you look at, like, I understand now,
those are two very, very,
very
opposite styles.
Exactly, because Coleman, his finish is not as strong, and you look at Bolt, his finish was all. I mean, he had probably
those are two very, very opposite styles. If you try to compare those two, you're basically saying that I want to sit in a room for 2-3 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody want to sit there and do that, bro. Like. That's like saying, like, let's look at classical music and jazz. Classical music is a music that's composed in structure, and then jazz is built off of improvisation. So I would look at Usain Bolt as improvisation, more rhythm running, more timing, and then I would look at Coleman as more as like wickets, sections, positions, shapes. You know what I mean? So he runs in a way to where he maximizes a certain point in racing. Do you know what I mean? And the rest is like free will.
Exactly. And then that gets to this point. So I know you're on a time crunch, so I wanted to ask you one more question. So do you have any additional information you'd like to add about, sprint mechanics and what your plans are for the upcoming outdoor season this year for high school and, which is also pending right now. We're still waiting on the indoor championships for college. So that's coming up within a few weeks. and then outdoor season will kick off shortly after that. So you got any plans ahead of you for that?